Thank you so much, Jim and Dave, and we too really appreciate this partnership and what it means for all of North America. So thank you so much, and appreciate the plaques. Very kind. So with that, we'll head into the Wildlife Management Committee, and so I'd like to recognize Doug Markham to give us an update on the CWD education efforts.
Hello, Commissioners. We're here to talk about something known as chronic wasting disease. A little bit more than what I gave you last month we'll talk about. We've got pictures to illustrate it this time. And what I would like to do with this is, one, talk about what we're doing both with the agency and what we're doing with sources outside the agency, and ask you to consider maybe after we get through all the season settings sometime in June or so, to bring in the person that we worked with to bring attention through one of our news stations here, and maybe Brant also, and see how digital marketing is working for us. I think it's a good thing, but I don't know that the agency has ever sat down and discussed how well it works. And are we spending the sportsman's dollars like we should be? I think we are. I think it looks good, but something I want y'all to consider later this year. We've been working on chronic wasting disease, a media campaign now probably for 6 months. Longer than that, really, if you think about all the articles written in the previous years, but we really started concentrating on it back in the summer with a few articles out on our website. And because you understand the urgency of it, we continue to make the project grow and do more stuff with it. I guess our goal is for people to eventually say they're sick of hearing about CWD. That's what we want them to. We want them to get that way at some point or another, because we want everybody to know what chronic wasting disease is. And the campaign hasn't been just to talk to hunters. It's been to talk to everybody. If there's somebody who knows a hunter that will talk to that hunter going out of town, that's what we want. So that's what we've been trying to do. We started with a lot of things, but one of the things we did along the way was create a logo. And we've got 3 that we're working with right now, very similar in the way they look. One's got our website on it that was created. The IT department helped us create a website that we can put on one of them. You'll see this pretty soon on the back of trucks and other places, and we need one that has our website on there so folks can find it. The other 2, one's got a little color, one doesn't, just for different reasons. And we want to use those to, if you're going onto a site and you can click on something, we don't necessarily need the website on it. It just leads back to where we want to get them, and I'll show you that in just a minute. We created a website. We've had a website a long time. We created a page, and on this page, we've got a note to all Tennesseans. As they go to it, they're out looking at either from our home page, or they're out looking at their website, or their personal websites, or their personal phones, or their personal computers. They come into our site, and it's a message to everyone about chronic wasting disease and what it is, and why we need everybody's help. We also have on that page videos that tell folks how to properly dress or clean their animals before we come back. We feel like if we're going to tell them that they need to bring things back properly, then we need to tell them how to do it. Barry Cross is our information person here in Region 2. And Barry went to see the young man on the left and the right is Chris Butt. Some of you may know his dad and his mom, Foster Butt, who is a taxidermist, has been for a long time. And Chris is an excellent taxidermist himself. So we created a video where Chris tells sportsmen how to clean the skull, how to clean the teeth, how to do all that stuff properly. And the other one that he is on the other side is a caping video. It's long, it's about 20 minutes, but it's an excellent video on how to cape an animal before you bring it back to Tennessee, if your taxidermist doesn't do it for you. And then the one in the middle we borrowed from our friends in Arkansas, who are going through a lot of trouble themselves. They're really working hard to stop chronic wasting disease from spreading in their state. Mark Goodland and I spent a good bit of time the other day talking to one of their biologists, really interesting person to talk to with everything that they're doing to try to prevent CWD from spreading in their state. And they've done some great stuff. But this is a deboning video, and really excellent. We didn't need to reinvent anything on that, so we just borrowed the video and gave them some credit, and that's on that page. So if you're seeing any of our stuff out on the media campaign we're doing, you come back here, and you have the information that will help you bring stuff back properly. We also have a map on that page, too. This is, I approached Channel 2 here in Nashville, WKRN, about doing some advertising with them. And my immediate thought going over there was, what kind of broadcasting advertising can we do? It's going to be difficult to try to do broadcasting all over the place. And it would be expensive, but as in talking with the salesperson there, he convinced me really quick that we ought to try digital marketing. There's some broadcasting involved with it, but more than anything, it's all these impressions and words you see are things that are appearing on people's on their apps, their telephone apps, cell phone apps. If they're desktop, if they're doing shopping around, maybe they're on Bass Pro or Cabela's, ESPN, Fox News, CNN, whatever, and they identify them and they put this message that they create. It might be the logo we just talked about, or other designs that they've created right in front of them. And it seems to be doing really well. It's a lot of Facebook. There's a lot of Facebook advertising going on, a lot of advertising just on your apps and websites, and a few other things on top of that. This is something you might see on WKRN or the local station, and I picked them not because no special reason. They pay attention a lot to the outdoors in Middle Tennessee. It's the capital of the state. They're a really good station, have a lot of following. So all the stations give us good attention, but we went over and spoke with them and started the campaign. We had to start somewhere, and so that's what we did. And this is just an example of what you might see if you're browsing their site. You might see our logo out on one page. That's also our Facebook on one side. They call that a native landing story, the one with the deer in it. This appears with all their other news items. It looks like a regular news item, and it appears on their homepage, and then they'll bury it and put it somewhere else. And then they'll put things like the bottom, you see it there, the bottom logo, that's on an app, and it's called an adhesive ad. And as you probably notice it and never think about it, as you're looking at your phone and you're running your finger and running a story up, it keeps following it up the story. So it stays there with them the whole time they're doing it. And they think of a lot of stuff like that to do. They have another one called a pencil, I think it's called a pencil push. And their jargon, it just means that they find a really busy day with a lot of interesting news stories, like this story might be one that happened in Hawaii with the emergency, or the Titans going to play the Patriots, or ice on a stormy day, and they'll put our ad in those stories they did that for us as an extra thing, and it really brings a lot of great attention to whatever you're trying to advertise or promote. This is just kind of a boring slide, but it's got a lot of information in it. It's just something that shows how much interest folks are having in all these different things that Channel 2 is doing just on their page, just on their site. And we're also working with a company called Hyphen. Hyphen is a part of the WKRN Corporation. This WKRN Channel 2 is owned by a corporation out of Texas. They own 170 stations, and also this group, digital marketing group called Hyphen. And we started, I'll get into them a little bit more, but this is what they've been doing through the corporation and through Channel 2. And the numbers that I like that are the average and how well we're doing with click-throughs, that far right number on the bottom that says a 0.54, it doesn't look like much, but the industry standard is 0.4. And Channel 2 says they like to go for 0.8. And folks are coming in through ours at like a 0.54%. It just means that people are interested, that they're coming in and looking at what chronic wasting disease is. It's called a click-through. There are thousands or hundreds of thousands of eyes looking at our ads, but anytime somebody clicks through, it shows that they're extra interested, and we're hoping that's the hunters that are going out of town that's looking at this stuff. We're also doing through this Hyphen group a Facebook campaign, and you can see that how many eyes. This is just 1 month. 423,000 people have seen this through the Facebook advertising that this Hyphen Corporation is doing. We let them become administrators on our Facebook page. We won't keep them out there forever, but they came in and they're administrator on the site. And the reason they did that, which was impressive to me, is they don't want to try to promote to the folks that we already have. We've got about 111,000 people on our Facebook page now. So they came in and eliminated those, and they're looking for other folks. And so that's folks that probably have never seen stuff that we do before looking at our site. And the 158,000 are folks who watched our video in entirety. We showed you, I think, both when we were in Gatlinburg, the 5-minute video that Barry created and the 30-second piece. We sent them the 30-second video, and that's what they're using. And that's how many people just for 1 month on Facebook saw all of that. And the video's been seen in other ways too, but that's probably the best way working there. The one thing I can't show you today is is how many people are looking at it on their desktop. This is where Hyphen is also working with us. They call it contextual advertising, which is a fancy way of saying keywords. And the groups on the right, and the group on the right are the way they find the folks that that find you. You see that MasterCard is up there and Nielsen is up there. That's the two that I know over on the far right side. But they're working through these companies to get your information, and that's how we're targeting. In this case, we're specifically targeting hunters. With Channel 2, we're targeting everybody. With Hyphen, we're targeting only hunters. And so they're finding out probably mainly men from 29 to 60, give or take. And they're going after them so that when they go shopping on Bass Pro or Cabela's, they look at an ESPN site or whatever, an ad's popping up or a promotion's popping up with our logo on it. We'll find out before this is over or when this is over in a couple of months. This campaign's going through about mid to late March. When it's all over, we'll compile every bit of information and bring it back to you. And that's when I'd really like to talk about digital marketing at that time. We're also doing a lot. Just with what we have, we've worked hard to try to build our own social media, our Facebook, Twitter accounts. We're growing Instagram. We're doing podcasts, our website. We've done a lot of work with our website lately, and I think it's getting better all the time. Nothing fancy, but more easy to navigate. And we hired a web administrator recently, and she's done an outstanding job of helping us bring our website to where it needs to be or get it where it needs to be. But you'll see on the left side, we've spent a little bit of money ourselves. We to let folks know about it, and have reached a lot of stuff. Just a lot of people just through our Facebook page. We also, I don't want you to think everything that you see out there is just Facebook. We write stories, and then we put those stories on our Facebook page. The article on the right was written by our East Tennessee information person. He did a great job. There was an arrest made, or there was citations issued for four hunters who brought a deer back to Tennessee, deer, elk, can't remember which it was, but brought them back to Tennessee, and they were cited for bringing them back to Tennessee because they didn't do the import restriction stuff they were supposed to do. It brought us a lot of attention. We'd had a lot of attention up to then, but when we put that out there, it really seemed to wake folks up to what we were doing. So Matt Cameron did that, and it's an excellent job. But we're writing articles all the time. Lee writes a lot of articles about chronic wasting disease. All our guys across the state do, and really getting a lot of attention that way. I don't know if they've been to court yet or not. No. In the freezer. They haven't been yet. Commissioner Gardner gave us a great idea when we were at Lone Oaks about we need to approach the kids. We weren't doing that yet, so we created a CD. Director Carter introduced it. Y'all saw the video. It was the same video. All we did was go in and add some photographs of deer that didn't look good and elk that didn't look good. And Director Carter did a great job of introducing it, talking directly to the kids. And that's out on our website too, on the very same page that all the other stuff, the landing page is. You can watch that if you want to. I don't know how many kids we educate a year, but we sent out about 1,000, give or take, CDs to instructors across the state. And while I'm talking mainly about the media campaign, the officers here could tell you more about some stuff that's going on, or the wildlife crew out here could tell you more about what's going on in their realm of trying to let everybody know about chronic wasting disease. But my understanding from talking to Darren Ryder the other day is that the instructors have been asked or more or less told that they need to start. Am I speaking in place okay? Yep, they need to start teaching this, and they're going to add a couple of questions to the curriculum, to the test, so that we know that they'll understand what chronic wasting disease is. And if we can keep this thing out of Tennessee, then maybe those youngsters will grow up knowing that they got to do the right thing. One of the other things we're going to do is utilize the strength of our staff out in the field. That's our wildlife officers, our technicians, our wildlife management area folks. We're going to create a bumper sticker. That's why that address is important in one of the logos. We're mandated, or the officers are field mandated what they can and can't put on their trucks. You notice it's a snowy day, but there's an American flag up on the left side of that one. And then that's the Hunters for the Hungry logo on the left side, down on the bottom. And then we're going to put, I expect that's where it will go, Director Carter, on the right side of the bumper. We'll create a bumper sticker that's CWD, keep it out of Tennessee. And these trucks log a lot of miles, and they're seen by a lot of people. So we hope that helps a little bit too. And we're also we just designed Raleigh Holtum, our graphics person. We always put him under tremendous pressure. We give him about 3 hours notice when we want him to get something done, and asked him yesterday to put a graphic together for our fishing guide our fishing guide that's going out, being put together and going out here in a few days. And that's going to appear in our fishing guide, a message there talking to everybody, not just the hunters, but to everyone who will listen to help us with CWD. And it's going to take them back to that landing page on our website. And we can use our magazine, we can use our guides, and those guides reach hundreds of thousands of people. And the magazine reaches tens of thousands of people. So that's just another way of reaching a lot of people in Tennessee. And these are other thoughts. These are things we still have to do. Our elk cam is coming soon. We've been talking about an elk camera a long time. Our person from New Jersey is coming in, we hope next week, and start putting up an elk cam. And I think it will bring tremendous attention to our website. And I also think it will bring tremendous attention to CWD, because we'll package it with a message saying we don't want to lose our elk. Meltwater is a group that y'all have heard a little bit about. There's so much potential with everything we're doing now in this digital world and everything that's developing around the digital world. Meltwater is who is doing our clipping. It's our clipping service. You'll be seeing more and more from them. We're leaving the clipping service we currently have. We've gone with Meltwater. It's kind of like the service we have times 10. But one of the other things it also does is creates a press list for you that's updated all the time. And instead of sending out 70 or 80 press releases, we'll be able to send out probably 800 to people that we've never sent them before, maybe folks who don't want it at all, but they just have to delete it. But we're going to start doing that. GovDelivery has reached 530,000 email contacts. We haven't really started using GovDelivery yet for chronic wasting messaging. Our first messages have been positive. We didn't want to start talking about chronic wasting disease right off the bat, but we will start talking about that eventually. And it's going to grow. That list is 530. I hope this time next year it's close to 1 million. That might be being optimistic, but it's going to grow a lot. Commissioner Sanders gave us a good idea last month. We haven't started pursuing it yet, but there's a lot of sportsmen's groups out there, and we want to put together a message and try to find them on their Facebook and website pages. There's some really big sites out there that he was showing us. We'll work on that. The hunter education we talked about, we'll always do the news releases, radio and TV appearances. That's just part of our life in traditional media. And then the marketing advertising campaign and question mark with the budget. I think at some point I need to talk to Director Carter and the director's office and all of y'all about, do we want to spend more dollars on this digital campaign or some kind of marketing? We managed to cobble together some money this year thanks to some folks, and spent some money with WKRN. But do we, going into the future, how much do we want to spend on this? And something that I think we all should talk about at some time. When talking to Arkansas the other day, they've spent about $2.5 million so far just combating CWD since 2016. And I hope we never have to get to that point. And finally, it's one way or the other, it is a marathon. If we can, it's going to be a marathon. If we keep it out, and if it gets in here, it's going to be a marathon to fight it then. So all of us are going to be talking about chronic wasting disease for a long time. And the guys in wildlife are going to be talking about it for a real long time. And I know they don't want to get it interstate. Talking to the Arkansas biologist the other day, you could tell it just pretty much has consumed his life. And that's what it will be with our crews if we don't keep it out of Tennessee. So we don't know for sure that we don't have it here. Mark can tell you more about that, or Chuck, or any of those guys can tell you Arkansas didn't know they had it. After years of studying and testing deer and testing, and then one day they did, and now it's all over the place. It's heading west, I think, is what he told us the other day. It's moving toward the Oklahoma line. So they're fighting it hard over there and doing a good job, but they're spending a lot of money. And I think we got to decide what we want to do, how much more we want to work on this project. That's it.
Well, thank you, Doug, and I want to commend you and your staff on, it's an impressive program you set up in just a relatively short amount of time. That's incredible coverage, and thank you for doing that. You definitely get the word out. I don't have anything to compare it to, but it seems like 500,000 hits in a month is big.
I think it is, yes, sir.
And I probably missed it. I'm sorry if I did. How much are we spending? How much have we spent so far on this?
We spent $30,000 on. We're spending $30,000 with Channel 2, And we've done a month of it. We got 2 more months to go with them. And then we're spending a few thousand here and there on other things, the bumper stickers, this and that, and so forth.
That seems like a great return on 30,000. So thank you again.
That-
Any questions or comments from the commission? Commissioner
Thank you,
Stroud?
Mr. Chair. Hey, Doug, would you mind going back and let me see that Channel 2 ad? Or what our money's being spent on as far as with Channel 2?
There's several different things. Is that the one you're talking about? Or are you talking about that one?
Yeah. No,
No?
one before that.
Okay.
I'm trying to think. Is that it right there?
These are just a couple of things. These are 2 examples of about 5 or 6 different things that are
Okay,
occurring.
that was my question. So there's not just a couple, but you have several.
Oh, yes, yes, sir. There's, the next slide gives you an idea of, it's hard to see that thing from there, but it's a desktop and news, 2 app, mobile adhesion app. That's the one where you slide up and it
Yeah.
stays with you, and it goes on and on. But I would say they're doing 6 or 7 different things, just at Channel 2. That doesn't count hyphen and what they're doing with Facebook and what
Right.
they're doing on desktop
Is
computers.
the 30 just Channel 2?
No, it's both of them together.
Okay.
It's hyphen and it's one corporation, and,
Yeah.
and we're getting 2 invoices from them.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Doug, I just want to commend you too on this information. I feel like the media getting this word out is very important. And I feel like y'all have done a great job as far as just reaching so many people at one time. This is probably one of my biggest concerns, serving as commissioners, is keeping CWD out of Tennessee. I'm still concerned, and do we know what as far as carcass importation, what the penalty still is? Is that still a?
Okay. The penalties for carcass importation.
I would say that's gonna be a Class B, under the rule. All the rule and regulations are all Class Bs. So it'd be a $500 fine.
Okay.
Everything we do just about's a misdemeanor.
Okay.
And
Pretty much.
Our biggest obstacle is, right now facing us is the storage of the seized evidence. We hold it for evidence up until the point where we go to court, and then the judge will make a determination on what we're gonna do. Well, we've got limited amount of freezer space. That freezer space holds all our evidence, and then you have the issues with cross-contamination with things that aren't CWD related or potential. So that is one of ours, and the other is disposal. Right now that we're facing, so we're kind of flying by the seat of our pants till we get,
Okay.
set up on what we can do and storage of these until they go to court, because we can't seize these and immediately take somebody's stuff and burn them without getting a judge's order and a disposition, because if you take it immediately and did something with it, the judge says, you're not guilty, give it back, we wouldn't have it, so that's kind of what we have with that.
Thank you so much.
I'm sorry, let me ask another question here. This thing is serious, and we know it. And what I just heard concerns me, because I think if we're looking into the future of this thing, and we're talking about freezer space, now this is, sorry to be ignorant about this, don't know where that is, don't know anything about that, but I do know this. If you're telling me it's cross-contaminating other parts of your freezer space, why not look into us, I don't know what, but let's build us a dadgum freezer for this stuff, keep it, am I going in the wrong direction?
No,
Or
no, you're right. We've looked into, right now, we have a limited number that come through this state. I've got a list of the ones that we have done in all the way down to like 2013, I think.
Yeah.
And that list, we focus mostly on the last couple of years, and we're putting those in freezers. We put them in body bags best we can to keep them contained. Those body bags are very expensive and quite honestly not big enough. We're having to double bag them, tape them, do these things to put them in there. If we go to a complete importation restriction coming from all states, that volume is going to go up, way up. So we're going to be talking about deer from Kentucky,
Yeah.
Alabama, so on, that people cross back and forth on a regular basis. So we've talked about maybe leasing refrigerated or freezer trucks, 53-foot trailers for each region, or getting an additional freezer space just for CWD cases for each district.
Okay.
And it's gonna be quite expensive. There's no doubt, like Doug was talking about, with this advertising, it's how much can we spend, and that's where we're at right now with doing that. Then we get into when the cases are completed, we want to incinerate these. There's only right now an incinerator up here at Department of Agriculture that we utilize, and you know, when you're talking about the entire state and the volume that we could potentially have, we may have to invest in something like that as well.
Right.
Plus, if you confiscate it, may not have CWD.
It very well may not. We're gonna test those. They will test them, but if not, we're gonna have those laying around for a period of time it takes to get the test back, and, you know, we don't know, but we do know they came from states, you know, outside of Tennessee, and we feel like to err on the side of caution to bury, bag, and bury, or to burn. Burn is optimum.
Yeah.
I think potentially burying is a way that we could do that. The biological staff could correct me on that if I'm wrong.
But you are, I mean, it sounds like to me you are looking into this, like you're talking about the freezer trucks and that kind of stuff. But I think that's, in my opinion, I think this discussion needs to go a lot deeper, because like what Doug's saying, it's not going to go away, and we need to prepare ourselves for whatever we need to do. And this is really, to me, very, very important to keep this stuff separated and pay attention to that side of keeping it out of the state too. And it helps you, I'm sure, for what you have to do if you have these things in a place that doesn't get goofed up with some cross-contamination or whatever you'd have to be dealing with.
Right. All these districts, we have freezers that we
Yeah.
have in the past held evidence in. There's limited space in them. They're not huge.
Right.
And we're concerned about the influx, and that's where that dollar figure that Doug was talking about, the 2-point-something million out of Arkansas, it's just, and I'm not saying we're going to spend $2 million, but it's going to cost money to do this and to do it the right way instead of
Yeah.
doing it, you know, just half.
Instead of chasing it.
And
Yeah.
we're going to get to that place, but we're going to have to make some changes, because these freezers we have now, we're having to include everything in there and just bag them and try to create any cross-contamination from one that's frozen we may give back to somebody later.
All right. Thank you for the info. I appreciate it.
Commissioner Holbert.
Mr. Chairman, Kate, hold on just a second.
Sorry.
If nobody on the commission has any disapproval of this, I'd like to ask y'all before the next meeting to check on the price of 4 walk-in freezers, one for each region, and report and give us a report on that. And that way, if it's something we can put in the budget, we can get that done before. Because you know, you think about the trailers and the leasing them. I've actually done that for you. You know, you got to keep fuel in them. There's a lot of things you got to do. Plus, if you confiscate a deer in September, you're going to have that trailer. You're going to start in September, so you're going to have it going, and then you're still confiscating them 1st of January. Those court cases may be in the summer.
It would potentially be year-round.
It'd be all year round.
Yes.
So I think definitely, if you could at least get us some cost figures
We
on the
can,
size.
and we'll, you know, it's going to have to be a sizable type freezer,
Right.
because there's potential for a lot of animals being put in there. But we will do that. I'll work with Darren. We'll get some costs put together.
Okay, thanks.
Commissioner Cox.
When you have a deer that you're gonna keep, can't you do the testing and DNA on the deer and catalog it and then destroy the carcass?
After the court has decided what the disposition is going to be, we can. In other words, we can't, if somebody brings back a mule deer from out west, say, and they come in, they've got the head there intact, we can't rip through the head, their trophy, and cut this out and destroy that head without having the court make a disposition on it, because if we do, then we're going to give this head back with the neck ripped out or whatever to get to the parts they take out for testing, and you're going to have potentially destroyed this trophy, and then the judge says, well, you're not guilty, I find you not guilty, give the head back. And that can happen. That's solely up to the judge. So we're not taking samples until after adjudication. And every one of them we have, we're going to get, if they're still feasible to be tested, we're going to get samples and check them. And I don't know if the freezing affects that. where they can or can't be tested? Mark, do you know? It doesn't affect it. So we're, huh?
Just a little more difficult.
Okay.
I wonder, and this is perhaps a question for Chris Richardson. It seems to me if they brought a deer back from Colorado, they're in violation, they get a citation. But we can't do anything with it until the judge decides if he's really guilty or not.
Correct. And I'll explain it this way, Commissioner. A deer is not contraband in itself, where cocaine would be contraband itself because it's illegal to have, possess anywhere. This deer's not illegal to possess unless that judge decides that he is guilty of possessing it illegally. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. It's just frustrating if, you know, it's pretty obvious. He tagged from Colorado, brought it here. So it's illegal for him to do that. That is a hazardous substance, Dr. Cook. Is that correct?
Yes,
So-
could be.
So is legislation in order for us to ask, or is it not parsing words? I mean, this is an illegal substance that he potentially brought back. If the judge says he's not guilty, and that deer's got CWD, then where are we?
We're at the mercy of the judge, what he writes in his order for us to do with it. If he's tagged this deer and brought it back, it is his property. That's part of his property, just like his suitcase is his property. We can't just say, well, we're taking that, because it's not potentially contraband in it of itself.
No Lacey Act or?
No, I mean, the Lacey Act would come if it was illegally taken in another state and brought into our state. This guy's not illegally taking it where he harvested. It was legal take, but it violates our rule by being in Tennessee.
Do you have any idea how many states actually have a law that allows the wildlife officers to confiscate and destroy the deer if it's brought in illegally? I know that there's at least one state because I've watched it on TV.
I don't know what states have that legislation.
Would it take legislation or commission action?
Take legislation, I think.
Legislation? I mean, really, if it's illegal to bring a deer back in a certain manner that's not deboned and caped out properly, then somehow we need to have, if it takes legislation, that the wildlife officer can confiscate, destroy the deer. I mean, just like Commissioner Cox said, what if it does have CWD and the court gives it back to them? And one last question, can they not skin the neck back and take the lymph node out without destroying the cape?
Chuck, is that something that's possible to not affect it?
In other words, if they're bringing back the shoulder part of the deer to mount, can the wildlife officer not skin back the cape? It won't take but a couple of minutes to get to the lymph node and cut the lymph node out without destroying the cape?
As is currently, I don't see how that would be legal. I think that's the position that we're in, is that we can't compromise the property of an individual when they haven't been deemed guilty of a crime and the property hasn't been deemed illegal in nature. So that's the dilemma. And as far as the ability to clean the animal and not damage it, I think that would just put us in a very compromised position, especially considering that this is not something that we're proficient at skinning the animals in that manner.
So right now, as the law stands, somebody can bring a deer back into Tennessee illegally. We can put it in the freezer. The judge says, give the deer back to them, and you could be giving them back a deer with CWD.
Well, I want to defer to the legal staff. If they want to just shake their head, that's okay. But that potential exists. It does exist.
And I'm sure there are some judges that would say, give the deer back to him.
I'd hate to assume, but
But I believe that's out of our, that's
I
not
know it
under
is,
our,
but-
yeah.
But somehow, in my opinion, either whether it takes legislation or whatever, we need to be really proactive on this.
Well, I think the bigger thing,
Innocent until proven guilty, I don't think you'd be.
It's in my opinion, that, you know, it's all, that sounds great, but in our court system, hey, you're innocent until proven guilty. We're never gonna get that passed. Hey, that's just
Right.
it.
but I think we need to make the fine more substantial, work on that somehow. There needs to be some restitution or something for the potential damage, but that's another issue. But Commissioner Gardner?
Yeah, just one thing to add to that thread that, about the possibly giving the animal back. And it kind of puts us back in the cross-contamination phase, even though we keep all the deer in a specific cooler. If one can be given back potentially, then you have cross-contamination within that cooler, even though you've separated it from the others. So maybe we need to look more at, in addition to the cooler, a way to bag the deer better than using a body bag. Maybe there's something out there that can contain the deer within itself while we keep it separated in a cooler. But if that's a potential, then you're cross-contaminating all kinds of things anyway.
Right, and the issues we have are where people bring in entire deer, where you've got an entire deer with legs sticking out and antlers, and it takes a bag that we would like to have something that you open, put it in, zip it up, and can keep it in. Right now, we're using is industrial garbage bags, and we're having to pull them on, try to get them around, snap the legs, and put them in, and try to get these things stuffed in there. And a lot of them, of course, have been dead for a day or two, and they're stiff, and it's like I said, we're flying by the seat of our pants trying to get this done and solve that issue. And so I think, Commissioner, with your direction, we'll try to look at a different type of bags as well when we're doing this cost analysis and put that in there as well.
Please do.
Okay, what about, this may be crazy, but will you shrink wrap to wrap big pallets and stuff? Could you maybe just shrink wrap it?
That could potentially be a solution too. We'll look at all the different ways we can to try to do that, something that could contain. We've got one actually that, in Region 2, the judge found the individuals guilty, but told us that he wanted to give the antlers back to the people, but not the entire deer, just the antlers back. So he said, told them, you will be responsible for meeting with the wildlife officer that took it and taking the antlers off and cleaning the antlers sufficiently for them to bring them back. That's been months ago. They've never come back. Those are still sitting there. Those animals are still sitting there. We're going to try to remedy that by maybe trying, if they do that, to put a limitation on a certain amount of time, send them a letter and say, if you don't come within this many days, we're going to destroy it. There's potential there for issues too with the judges giving the antlers back, because then you start sawing it apart and taking membrane off of it and those type of things. So yes, the judges do make decisions that are, their decisions, and they're gonna do as they see fit. So I don't know any way around that.
How long does it take to test to get the results back?
Joe?
Would you send them off?
in the case of a law enforcement matter, I think we could get them within a month. But
Tom?
you could expect at least 2 weeks
Okay,
from the time that the lab receives it.
okay. Thank you.
Mr. Swan?
With the type of bags you use, isn't there the propensity for the antlers to poke through?
Absolutely,
So you have to have something pretty durable, don't you?
yes. And we've not found a solution to this point.
Even other than like putting pieces of hose on the antlers first?
We've not tried that, but we've not found anything that we figured that would work.
Any other comments from the commission? Any questions from the audience, comments? Thank you very much.